Alrighty, hosses, welcome back. And in this video, we only have one more file to write for this project, and this is probably going to be two more videos just because I don't know, we have like 3 or 4 functions. But basically, we already have everything created that we need: the spider, the link finder, all of that good stuff. And all we need to do now is we need to call the spider over and over and over again. So we can just make this real quick and just make a while loop and say, hey, as long as you have links, just keep calling it. But like I said, the reason this is going to take a little bit longer is because we're going to make this program multi-threaded. So instead of just having one function or one program that goes and does the same thing over and over again, we're going to have multiple threads. So it runs like 8 or 16, or if you have an awesome computer, like 64 times as fast. And all of these programs, all of these spiders are going to work simultaneously at the same time. So if you never used threads before in Python, I'll keep it real simple for you. The first thing you need to do is import threading, and from Q, import Q. All right. So before we continue, I'll explain how they work. And if you guys are like, wow, I looked at some stuff about threading before, it looked really complicated. Trust me, guys, it's not. It's really simple. A thread, well, let's break it down like this. You know that whenever you own a factory, you have a bunch of workers and they each are doing their own job. It's the most simple thing to understand. Whenever you have a thread, each thread is like a worker and the queue is just a job. So it's pretty much the exact same thing, just different terminology. So we're basically going to have a bunch of workers, or spiders or threads, whatever you want to call them, and we give them each a job, and then they do it. Now, again, unlike a regular program, they can all work at the same time, which is awesome. So that's all we're doing right there. So now let's just go ahead and import all the stuff that we made. So from spider, import spider, from domain, dominate, holy moly, from domain, import all, and that's what we did in the last video. And of course from general, import all of those. All right, so now I'm just going to make a couple constants, and if you were running this as a command line tool, then you can just have the user fill this in and parse the arguments. But for right now, I'm just going to make simple variables. So project name, my mom texting me, and I'll say the New Boston. So again, if you decide to make this a GUI or a command line tool, you're going to want the user to fill this in. But just for this little demo, whenever I'm teaching it, I'm just going to type them myself. And by the way, you can't really have there is no such thing as constants in Python, but you can just kind of make them yourself. So since there's no like constant keyword, the convention is whenever you're programming Python, if you ever have a variable that's not going to change throughout the entire running of your program, you just write it all in caps. And that way later on, whenever another developer is working on a program, they don't set this equal to a new value. So again, there are no built-in constants, but that's the Python convention. So for the home page, this is also a constant, and that is going to be this. So that's my project. That's my home page. Now for the domain name, remember what we did is we already made a function called getDomainName, and we just need to pass it in the URL of the home page. So that's going to return this right here. And the reason I just don't want to plop this right in here like this is because, like I said, later on, if we ever decide to use this in a GUI kind of way, or maybe we're making a consumer application, we want the user to type in the least amount of information possible, saying, hey, just give me your homepage URL and we're going to take care of all the hard stuff for you. So it just makes it easier for the end user. So the last thing I'm going to need are, well, not the last thing, we got a couple more things we need to do, is I'm going to have a constant to that waiting list and also that crawled file, because those file paths, they never change. And I'm also going to use those variables a few times later on. So I'm going to write Q file. And again, all this is equal to is the project name plus q.text. And I need to add that / and I don't need to copy it. So crawled file equals project name plus crawl.text. Actually, my mom is texting me because my sister's in school right now, high school, and she applied at a bunch of colleges. And the one college that she really wants to go to, it was the last letter that she got, and it actually came in the mail, but my sister doesn't know that it's in the mail yet. She applied at like 8 colleges. She got into all of them, but this one, which is the 8th one, she doesn't know if she got in or not, and so my sister doesn't even know the letter came in yet. So later on, I'll let you know if she got in or not. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for her. All right. Now the last thing we're going to do is make a variable called number of threads. And the number you set this equal to is actually dependent on your operating system, how many threads it's capable of handling. For this, I'm just going to write 8. But again, I don't just want to say use 8 or use this number, this number. It's operating system specific, and there's a bunch of other factors as well. But I know my operating system can handle 8, so that's why I'm writing that. All right. So the last 2 things we're going to do is I'm going to make a variable called Q. Now, this Q I'm talking about right here, again, the job of each spider is just to get a link, crawl it, and whatever page we gave it, gather all the links on page. We know that already. So this queue is actually the thread queue. So it's not the waiting list of links. Essentially, they're the same thing, but again, the thread queue or the job is what I'm going to refer to right here. So what I could do is I can rename this thread queue, and it may make it a little bit easier to understand, but eventually in like 2 seconds, you guys are going to see what's going on. And the reason I'm not naming it thread queue is because this name is queue. So that's my reasoning for that. Now, the last line I write before you start writing any functions is this. Remember, when our program first starts out, we can't just boot right up into multi-threaded, because the first thing it needs to do is it needs to crawl this home page and gather all of the links on this home page right here. So what we're going to do is that first spider we make, we don't need to stick it inside any thread. We just call it from a normal function. Now, whenever you call a spider, we just pass in 3 parameters: the project name, the home page, and the domain name. So that, actually, I can go ahead and run this right now if I want. Let me go ahead and run this and check it out. So what we did with this very first spider is whenever this first booted up, it created, I'll show you guys. It first created that project directory. So that's why we see the new Boston right here. And then another thing it did is it created those crawled files in queue. So what's in the crawled file? It already crawled the home page. What's in the waiting list? All of the links on my home page. And this was all of the links that it discovered right here. And now that we had that spider taken care of, this was the only special one. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and make a bunch of spiders, and they're each going to run simultaneously. And what job do they have? Well, each of these links is essentially what we want the spiders to crawl. So now that we got the core functionality in that main base spider taken care of, we can go ahead and start making this program a lot faster and optimize it. It's going to be sweet. I'll see you guys next time.